These kids decide to rob a Colombo social club. And our witness just happened to be there, who was a pretty decent sized guy. And he had a recording device. They come in and they rob the club and they let a round go through the ceiling. Can't make this up. The next day, these boneheads, they butt dial one of the guys in the club because they knew them. And they're talking live saying, oh yeah, I put that fat on like the floor, blah, blah, blah. So the Colombo guys call them and tell them, come down to the club. And these stupid kids come down to the club. Our witness with a recording device is in the club, not knowing this was going to happen. They were going to kill these kids. They had guns in their mouth, everything, going to kill them. Our witness steps in and he had an asp and he tuned them up pretty good, but he saved their life. He saved their life because they were going to get killed. They were going to kill them. He intervened and stopped it.
I'm Steve Murphy, DEA Special Agent retired and now host of the Game of Crimes podcast. If you've seen the Netflix series Narcos, then you know my story. I now bring you stories of heroism and bravery from our law enforcement and military heroes, and occasionally from the criminals that they faced. Welcome to Game of Crimes. Hey folks, welcome back to part 2 of this week's episode of Game of Crimes with Murph in the Morning. If you didn't see yesterday's episode, please go listen to that before you listen to today's, because it sets the background. And our guest today, Seamus McElearney, who's a retired FBI agent, who was a case agent and a working agent also before he became a supervisor, but working against the DeCavalcante crime family, the Bonanno crime family, and we're going to talk about the Colombo crime family. These are all mafia groups. This is one of the really, really good interviews. Where he's getting into it. I'm trying to be as quiet as I can. You know me, I tend to go off on my little tangents every once in a while, but he's really going into a lot of detail and explaining things. He's got a book out that I really, really highly recommend. It's called Flipping Capo, which was a member of the DeCavalcante family who flipped, which was the first ever. But it's called Flipping Capo, How the FBI Dismantled the Real Sopranos. Did you watch the Sopranos series on TV? I have. And a lot of things that he talked about yesterday sounded very familiar to what I saw on TV. But the producers say there were no advisory technicians, subject matter experts, whatever, consultants from law enforcement on the show. But we don't believe in coincidence, do we? Well, Seamus, welcome back again to today's part. Appreciate you. We were talking yesterday. You've got Anthony Capo now. You've arrested him. He's agreed to cooperate. You told us he's the first person ever within the DeCavalcante family, which has a 100-year history of being involved with organized crime, or what some people call La Cosa Nostra, La Mafia, whatever you want to call it, whichever name you want to pick there. And he can't get bond because he's such a violent individual, but you still have to maintain contact. You've got family obligations going along. Your dad has just passed away. I know your mom is still living. I've read your books. I know a little bit about the background here. I guess my first question today is, how do you balance all that stuff? I know how you do, but explain to everybody, because you've got a family situation here with some property in Ireland that's getting ready to explode. And then you've got this major, major case going on, not to mention you're a young FBI agent who's running a witness with all these old seasoned guys going, don't let the newbie do that. He doesn't have the experience. So how do you handle all this, brother, and keep your sanity?
Well, first, it's great to be back on the show. Yeah, it was a lot at that time. And I think just based upon how my dad raised us and like the work ethic that I had, I think I just immersed myself into work. I think that was the big thing. And I kind of dealt with things that way. But it was a lot trying to deal with property in Ireland. And unfortunately, what had happened was my dad got sick and he really didn't like confrontation related to his family. And his dad had left the property to him and he was sick at the time. So he wanted me to kind of handle the affairs there. And we had a family that wanted the property there. So it kind of put me in a bad type of struggle in the sense is I live in New York and the property is back in Ireland, and trying to sell it there or sell it to the family there became a big ordeal for many, many years, to tell you the truth. So it kind of put a strain on our family. So it was really, really tough to do that and just to try to help out my mom, because my mom was a stay-at-home mom, which is a job in itself, right, trying to raise children. And she takes great pride in how she did raise her kids. But it really was a lot to deal with at the time. And here I am trying to arrest Anthony and keep my wits about me there. And as I said before, a very violent person, and having my dad pass during that time period was really, really tough.
Yeah. Yeah. And and you had a brother that was working for the Bureau in a different capacity.
Yes, my brother is a true FBI success story. It's like he started in 1999, I believe, as a mechanic, because as I mentioned before, my dad had a service station in the Bronx. I believe my brother worked there when he was probably like 5. So he was a very great mechanic. He joined the Bureau in 1999 as a mechanic. From there, he became an FBI police officer, because the FBI does have police to kind of guard the buildings and to guard the agents that are there. And then from there, he went to a group called SSG. That's our surveillance group. And when he was on that group, he actually attended college. He went to Manhattan College, as we had talked about that earlier. He went there, he got his degree, and I think it's the same thing with the DEA, but the age range is 23 to 37, meaning you have to be down in training by your 37th birthday. Liam basically got his college degree, went down to Virginia right before his 37th birthday. So he just made the cutoff there to become an agent, which is great. And he's still at the FBI. He has another 3 years before he can retire. But he truly is a Bureau success story who started as a support employee, as we call them, and just raised up through the ranks and became an agent. So super proud of him. Someone that was just his steely resolve and was just persistent to try to become an agent, fulfilled his lifelong dream. And just great to see him succeed. And now he's actually a white collar supervisor. And not to jump ahead, but when I ended my career, we actually got to be on the same squad together.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. So it was really good. And on that note too, it's like, which is you're not really supposed to do, and you're never not supposed to be on the same arrest team, right? One of our last arrests, he went to go arrest someone, and I went to go lock someone else up. And both perps weren't at the areas that they were supposed to be at. And we ended up in the same house together, arresting the targets that we were supposed to arrest. So it's kind of weird.
Well, and when he graduated from the academy, there's a special tradition within the federal law enforcement agencies, including FBI and DEA. What happened on his graduation day?
I actually had the privilege of presenting him his credge, which was great. It was great for my family to be there, my mom to be there. So it was really special. And that was 2008. And it was so funny because right before he went down for training, which was in October 2008, I had just recovered a body of Colombo underboss Wild Bill Catullo. So it was really strange. I remember going out to dinner with him and my family right before he went down to training, and it was right after we had found that body.
Yeah. I love that tradition. I've gotten to attend several graduations as you're going on the job, especially when you move up in ranks, but it's always a special event when either a father steps up and pins the badge on the daughter or son, or just a family member, in your case, your brother. That's fantastic. I love that tradition.
It's great.
So let's get back into your new best friend, Capo.
So I think where we had left off was we had the October 2000 arrest. At that point in time, we had used information from 3 cooperators that we had: Anthony Capo, Vincent Palermo, Victor D. Chiara, which was a soldier, acting panel boss, and an associate. We already had Ralph, so now we're up to 4. And we have that arrest, and we had an associate come forward named Frank Scarabino, known as the Beast. So the Beast comes forward and he tells us that he has a contract on Anthony Capo and his kids, and that the DeCavalcantes are going back to the old ways where they want to hurt law enforcement. So that's when it got real, really, really quick. Now, I know threats are part of law enforcement, as you're well aware, based upon the history that you have of the people that you have chased around, namely Pablo. This got really, really, really quickly, and now we're faced with a situation where we have to move Capo's family. Capo's in jail, so he's safe. And you can just imagine when we get this news that I have to go up to Anthony Capo, who's in jail, and tell him that there's a threat against his family. And here I am, not knowing how he's going to react to this. Is he going to stop trying to cooperate? Is this going to scare him into not cooperating? How he's going to react to it? And of course, a wide range of emotions that day from him, from anger to crying, like, what has he done? And then faced with the situation where trying to get his family to move, and his wife would not move, which made it even harder for us, right? Where she stayed on Staten Island. And he's defenseless. So he's looking for me to protect him and to protect his family. And then also, because of the threat on law enforcement, me being the one that actually flipped him, I'm concerned, right? Because they might come after me. So, but we know that's part of the game, right? That threats are part of the job. So just being cognizant, and even in my current job, I give safety tips and active shooter tips as well. But the most important thing we tell people all the time is be aware of your surroundings at all times, right? So
absolutely.
Just how I came to work and how I went home to work, I changed the routes. You're always trying to look behind you and things like that. But thankfully, Frank Scarabino came forward, because if he hadn't, it could have been really bad. This was put in motion before those arrests.
And tell everybody why he came forward. I mean, his nickname is The Beast.
The Beast. And it's like, I guess it's not really funny, but from his perspective, that was crossing the line of trying to hurt children. That was something that he was not going to do. And now it goes from him cooperating, not are we only concerned about Capo and his family? Now we're concerned about Scarabino and his family. Because then there was charges where they wanted to kill Scarabino for not obeying the order. So it becomes a vicious cycle. So things are, and one of the reasons I wrote the book too is it's like, this is all happening at the same time. Now the Bonanno side of the squad is crushing it, where they're dismantling the Bonanno family. And one of the reasons why I wrote the book is we got so much positive press for like 5 years straight. The press never put together that it was the same squad. The squad C10 was a bunch of young agents that just gelled together. And I never met a bunch of young agents where there was no ego. There was no one trying to one up each other. We all just had each other's back. And it was just great to be part of, led by some senior people as well. Nora Conley, George Hanna, Jay Kramer, the supervisor, Jack Stubing, just great mentors. And it was just an unbelievable thing that this squad is really a historic squad. But the press never put it together that it was the same squad. So you had this squad dismantling two families at the same time. And it was just great. It was just great to see. So Frank comes forward. We have him in the door then. And now we have 4 people, right? Well, really 5 people. Then what happens about a month later, from the initial arrest, there was a guy named Tommy DeTore. Tommy DeTore was a mountain of a man. We called him and this guy, Joe Brightson, the Twin Towers. They were so big.
Wow. Tommy
DeTore is looking around and seeing that all these guys are cooperating. Remember that one of the crimes that I said started this whole case was the murder of Joseph Canigliaro?
Right.
Well, he's involved in that murder. He's seeing all these people cooperate, and he knows, I better jump on the train before the train takes off. So he decides to cooperate. He's out on bail.
There's an old saying that you guys probably use as well. The first person to cooperate always gets the best deal.
Exactly. So he decides to cooperate. He's out on bail. So what we do is we say, okay, let's get him to get everyone that's involved in that murder together and see if they talk. So the ruse was, we said to him, okay, we're going to subpoena you for major case prints, right? For all your prints, not just for the fingerprints, everything. So we get him to do that. He gets everyone involved in the murder together. The shooter is a guy named Martin Lewis. Martin Lewis is on tape, and they discuss the whole murder. It's one of the best consensual recordings the Bureau has ever had. Martin Lewis is on tape. He's saying that Joseph Canigliaro was in a car. The car was rigged where even though he was paralyzed, he could drive it. He said, I shot him 6 times. I got out of the car. Joseph Canigliaro drives to the stop sign and puts his signal on and drives himself to the hospital. Before he gets to the hospital, he stops off at Joe Brightson's house. Joseph Brightson is actually part of the murder conspiracy too. So can you imagine Joe Brightson is at his house thinking that Joseph Canigliaro is killed now. He's dead, right?
Right.
And Joseph Canigliaro pulls up in front of his house and beeps the horn for him to come downstairs. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall just to see that face, right? So Brightson looks down the window and sees him. It's like, oh, he's downstairs. So he's got to come downstairs, jump in the car of the guy who's been shot 6 times and drive to the hospital with them. They go to Methodist Hospital, and Joseph Brightson calls his cousin, who unfortunately was an NYPD detective, and the detective comes and cleans out the shells out of the car. Joseph Canigliaro dies at the hospital, and we have all this on tape. They talk about the cops' role. They talk about everything. This consensual recording is priceless. So needless to say, we have him in the door, right? So now we have 6. We have 6 guys. We go from nothing in 100 years to 6 guys.
Wow.
Then we have Anthony Rotundo, who's a captain. He comes on board. So now we have a full house, 7 people. After that indictment, then we have 2 more indictments. One is in April, I believe, one in May, and one in August. The one in August is related to the leak. We arrested Genovese Captain Fritzi Giovanelli for the leak. We can't arrest the alleged person who provided the information because we don't have direct evidence related to that, even though we think we know who it is, but we don't have a direct tie. We just have our sources meeting Fritzi to get the information. So he gets arrested. So those are all the indictments. And then, as you know, it's easy to indict people. Now comes the hard part, right? Where you have to convict them.
Right.
So can you imagine? It's like we have the 39 people we did initially. We're doing plea negotiations with them. We have all these other indictments now, and now you have the trials. So it's constant back and forth. So now we have 7 people that are on Team USA, which is great. We have these trials coming. And that takes us to August 2001. And then 9/11 happens. And everything comes to a complete screeching halt. And so a lot of crazy thing happens there.
If you would, just where were you at on 9/11 and what were your responsibilities?
Okay, so at that point in time, I had bought my parents' house. And me and my brother, we had our own place, we had turned our basement into a gym. So we were downstairs in our basement. We had worked out there, and my mom had yelled down to us that a plane had hit the tower. So we immediately started to get together. My brother was an FBI police officer at the time, so he's getting beeped to go down to the city. I'm starting to get ready. So I'm going down the east side. He's got to go to 26 Federal Plaza. And at that point in time, it was coming over the radio. No one knew what was happening, right? So they're telling us to go to Foley Square. And I'm thinking to myself, that's a public space. Why would you send 300 agents to a public space? We don't know what's going on, right? It's not really smart. So I'm like, I'm not going to go there. So then they decide they're going to send us to the 26th Street garage. That's where the garage was, where we had all our cars and everything. So I was like, all right, we're going to go there. And the DEA building, in perspective to there, was a little south of there. I think you guys were probably like 14th Street in relation to that, next to the West Side Highway. So we go there, and then it's just trying to account for people, right? You're trying to make sure that your squad is in place. And we're starting to hear that a gentleman named Lenny Hatton can't be found. And Lenny was a bomb tech. He was assigned to C-19. And then we're starting to hear a recently retired SAC, John O'Neill. They couldn't find him. Now, what was odd is John O'Neill, his history was he was an SAC in New York, but he's one of the first people that was on to Osama bin Laden. He just recently retired, and he took the head of security job at the World Trade Center.
Oh.
Yeah, crazy. So we go there. We don't know what's happening. I remember we talk about neutral site meetings with witnesses. Nora Conley, an assistant from the Southern District, were meeting Vinnie Palermo. So we had to make sure that they were fine, right? I mean, if you remember, the tower was knocked out, so the phones were not working at all. Thankfully, we had Nextels back then, so you go point to point. So at that point in time, we make sure everyone is intact, make sure that our squad is there. And it's like late morning, a tower has now fallen. We're told to go home. So you go home, you can't sleep, and we're told to come back that night. And I had the 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. shift, and we come back that night, and on the West Side Highway, there was people on the barrier there just cheering you on to come into the pit, which is very inspirational. And they were there literally every day and every night for months cheering you on just to motivate you to go in there because you were going into death. You really were. And no matter what they said for months on end that the air was fine, that's complete horseshit. It's like you were smelling death for months, no matter which way the wind blew. So I remember there's a story. There was a Borders bookstore right next to the World Trade Center. And I remember seeing 3 firemen sitting on a ledge. And I look up and there was glass that was sheared looked like a V. And I had to run over there and move these guys out of the way. First of all, they were disheveled from the experience that they had that day.
Right.
But if that glass had fallen, it would have cut their heads off. And I just had to get them out of the way and make sure that they were safe. But it was pure destruction. And I remember like a week later or so, I had to get on a flight, and flying over the pit was just an unbelievable experience, just looking at the destruction that was there. I do remember a really, really sad story in the sense is I had a buddy who had gotten married on August 11th, and he died that day. He was married a month to the day.
Oh, man.
And the only thing that I could do to help him was I was actually able to find his car that day and retrieve his personal belongings. And I was able to give that back to his wife. But just, it was a horrible, horrible time.
Heartbreaking.
But the only good thing that came out of that, as you know, we talk about how sometimes law enforcement does fight with one another. It's like, I have to say, during that time period, there was no fighting at all. Everyone, you would show up and there was things called leads, right? Where this is back in 2001. So it's 25 years ago. You would show up, you could be sent with someone from the DEA, the Postal Service, and you guys just worked together and you just got the job done and you just tracked things down. It was really just great to see.
It's sad to say this. It was the same in Washington. I was in Special Operations Division back then, and the old SOW building was out off I-95 in Lorton, Virginia. And driving in on the toll road towards D.C. before you got on 95, you saw there were American flags hanging off all the bridges. People were up there waving the flags. It actually brought unity to our entire country, not just law enforcement agencies where we're working together better, but it brought unity to the whole country. And here we are 25 years later, and so many people that weren't born yet, they don't understand how that galvanized our country, which is, we certainly aren't seeing that today.
We definitely need to get back to that, and people should never forget. It's really, really sad. Thousands
of heroes died that day.
Yep. And it's like everything just went on hold, complete screeching halt for probably, I'd say 4 months or so, 4 to 5 months, so you just worked around that. Just some crazy times.
Yeah. So you guys are you actually doing like counterterrorism investigations, or you're just providing security, or you're a little bit of everything?
Both. Yep. People went to the pit. People went to Staten Island where they were trying to look for things there. There was leads that you would do, whatever you were told to do. You just did it because you were just trying to help out whatever way you possibly could.
And in your book, you credit your partner with helping to save you. Can you explain that?
Oh yeah. So as I said, the air was not healthy whatsoever. And I remember that first night we were down there, it's like she made me put on a mask. And there are some fun times, within the book. But that night she made me put on a mask, and it's like I give her all the credit because being young and not really knowing what you're dealing with at that time. And unfortunately, to this day, there's so many people that I've known that have died and that continue to pass away from that illness. and for people that were exposed, not just down there, but from the other locations as well. So she's best partner I ever had. Her name is Stacy. Tremendous person, and I do give her all the credit. There was one joke that we used to talk about it in the sense is it was raining one night and she needed a pair of socks, and I just refused to give her an extra pair of socks, and she would just like went off on me, and I was like, oh, it's wartime, I'm not going to give you my extra pair of socks, but I was a complete jerk, and I do own it. But yeah, we get a lot of fun out of that one.
Oh, that's great. That's right. Well,
yeah.
she could have traded to give you a pair of pantyhose or something to go with it.
Unreal.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're certainly not making fun of what happened on 9/11, but in the law enforcement culture, you've heard us talk about this 1,000 times on here on the show, is that's how you deal with death and tragedy and horrific events is humor. It just helps keep your sanity. And I wanted to mention one thing. I wanted to mention yesterday, Seamus, or about yesterday when we first started, I was giving you a hard time about your New York accent and I'm old Southern hillbilly boy. But I tell you what, man, one thing I've found through the years working with DEA is that once you made a friend with anybody from New York, especially in law enforcement, you had a friend for life. And it didn't matter if they were federal, city, state. It was just amazing. And then the guys you get to work with throughout your career, you still stay in contact with them. We can go, it's the same with you, I'm sure. My wife thinks I'm crazy, but we can go 15 years and not talk to each other, and we'll get on the phone and it's like we were together last night.
Exactly. And that's the thing too, is like the law enforcement bond is really, really different in the senses too, especially when you go through a door with someone, it's very different. You know what I mean? And even if you don't like the person, right? It's like when you go through a door with someone, you have their back, and it's just very, very, very different. That's a different type of experience.
It is. And that's, we were talking before we started recording yesterday that, you worry when you retire from law enforcement, because I was a cop for 38 years and, you're afraid you're going to lose that camaraderie. But that's why I continue doing the show, because I get to meet people like Seamus and all these other heroes that you bring on Game of Crimes here. And you go out and do what you can for local law enforcement. I'm associated with the Orlando Police Foundation and just different things that keep you going. And I've got this corny phrase, Seamus, that I created is just because we retire doesn't mean our oaths ever expire.
Exactly.
That, we all swore an oath to start with. It's almost like omerta within the Mafia. And the oath doesn't die till you die. It doesn't go away. So anyway, that's Murph's opinion.
The only thing that's different is we're not going to break that oath.
Exactly. And we're always going to be, I'm seeing your thin blue line back there behind your head. I love that flag. And that's the difference. We do not step across that thin blue line. That's what separates us from the bad guys out there.
No, it's true. It is true.
Okay. Sorry for the tangent thing. I do it all the time, but the listeners, they forgive me. So let's move on.
Yep. So then we get past the indictments, and now it's time to go to the trials. And the first trial we had is in December of 2002. That's dubbed the wheelchair trial that related to the murder of Joseph Canigliaro. And we had a bunch of defendants there. We actually related to the cop. We had his partner became a witness, and he had to testify. So they all got convicted there, life sentences for some of them. I think the cop got 13 years. Horrible, wow. Especially for a cop, you know what I mean? So that was the first trial. And basically I was on trial for a year from December 2002 up until November 2003. And the thing is, what people don't really realize between the feds and also the state is the agents with the FBI, we sit at the table, right? So it's like, and it's not just showing up at the trial. There's trial prep beforehand. And because we had so many defendants, the strategy constantly changed, because you would have people plead out, and then you'd have to change the strategy that you have, the witnesses that you would use. And, with Anthony, he testified 7 times for me. That doesn't even count the times that he was prepped for trial, that people decided to plead out because he became such a good witness. But as I said, during that time period, basically was a year of no life for me, where it was just constantly trial. So that was the first big trial that we had, December 2002. The next one was in May of 2003, where we had the consigliere, Steve Vitale, and captains Pino Schiaffeletti and Phil Abramo went to trial. Again, we had a bunch of people plead out from December through May, where we had more people that were involved and they started to plead out. One of the people was Charlie Stango that you had mentioned before, was one of your guests you had, Giovanni Rocco was a guest of yours. So Charlie Stango was, in our case, lifelong perp, went to jail a lot. In our case, and I'm talking, this is 2003, if I remember correctly, he was sentenced to 13 years in our case, comes out and goes right back to a life of crime, and then gets entwined with Giovanni, where he's an undercover. Ironically, Anthony Zampogna is a supervisor of that squad with Giovanni. Anthony Zampogna was an agent on C-10. Anthony Zampogna was the handling agent for Frank Scarabino. So he ran the Beast. So Anthony was with C-10, then goes to New Jersey to be the supervisor there. And then, as I said, Stango goes to jail for 13 years, gets out, goes right back to a life of crime. And when he was with, in our case, he wasn't a made guy. Then he became a made guy, and he was arrested in like 2016. And I think in their case, he was sentenced to 10 years. So guy spent an awful lot of time in jail, and I think he's out now again. I believe. I think he's out now. I think he's close to 80 though now. So
just give him time; he'll be back.
Yeah, crazy.
Repeat customer.
Yeah, unreal.
Two things I want to ask you. One is, how in the world do you remember all these names? And the second is, how pleasant is it working with these cooperating witnesses who are used to calling the shots, and now all of a sudden you've got to put them in front of a jury and try to get them to, these murderers, and try to get them to convince 12 or plus the alternates on the jury, convince them that, yeah, I was a bad guy, but this is what really happened, and you can believe what I'm saying. I mean, I just can't imagine. You do it a few times in your career, but what you were going through, just witness after witness after witness and trial after trial. So that's two questions for you.
It's tough. Anthony, when he first went on the stand, defense attorneys were shocked and the defendants were shocked. I spent a lot of time with him, and not like you're coaching them or telling them what to do. You're just trying to like make them own it, I think is a good way to say it, right? Where one of the things that he would say when a defense attorney would say, "You're a horrible person," he would say, "I'm a work in progress. I was a horrible person." Like he really bought into it. You know what I mean? Because he was a horrible person. And one of the things that I always did was just treat him with respect. And he looked at me and he goes, which is kind of crazy, he kind of saw himself in me, like where I went the right direction, where he could have went the right direction. And it's all the way that you're raised, right? You know, some of these guys don't have a choice, right? Some of them are taught to hate law enforcement. He said to me, he goes, when I interact with him, no one had treated him that way before. No one had treated him with respect. All his interaction with law enforcement was hostile. And as you know, it's a two-way street, right? Maybe if law enforcement was a little bit more cordial with him, they would have got more with him. I don't know. But he goes, no one ever treated me the way that you treated me. So, and then we had a witness, Anthony Rotundo. Anthony Rotundo actually went to college. Let me rephrase that. Anthony Rotundo actually graduated college.
Wow. That's unusual.
Right? Who was brought into a family where his father was in the family. His father got killed. The life really wasn't for him, but he was born into it. He went into WITSEC, had a very successful business. So it's all the way that you're raised, right? But sitting down with them and just trying to, their goal is to get out of jail, right? So they're going to listen to you. You can't put words in their mouth. And one of the things that the defense attorneys always accused us of, okay, these guys got together before they were arrested and they all decided to cooperate. Well, what they don't know is it's like before that December 99 arrest, Vincent Palermo wanted to kill everybody. He wanted to kill Frank D'Amato. He wanted to kill Frank Scarabino. He wanted to kill Ralph. He wanted to kill a bunch of people. So can you imagine someone going, hey, Vinny, if we get arrested, why don't we all cooperate? You be on the hit list too. It doesn't make any sense. Another thing that happens with Woodseck is these witnesses are never housed together. And we can prove that. And the reason that is so they can't get their story straight. Now, if me and you have known each other for 20 years and we did a crime together, not that we would, but if we did a crime together, right? As long as we got the act correct, like if we robbed a bank, we knew which bank we robbed or where we robbed it. There could be minor differences. That's normal from 20 years ago. But if you have witnesses get on the stand and they say the exact same thing, that's unusual because you're not going to remember everything. And that's what happened here. There's going to be minor flaws, and that's normal for 20 years ago, right? So just getting these guys together and just making them, they want to get out of jail, right? So they have to tell the truth. And even Anthony Capo used to say, all I got to do is tell the truth. It doesn't matter if you win or lose. I just have to tell the truth. Before, I lied to stay out of jail. Now I tell the truth to get out of jail. It's very simple.
Right. Having dealt with cooperating defendants myself, when you're prepping them where they're going to be witnesses, the one thing you tell them is you have to tell the truth. Regardless of what happens, it's got to be the truth. And the defense attorneys are going to challenge it, just like you said. And they're going to say, what did the government tell you to say? The government told you to say that X, Y, and Z. It's like, no, the government told me to tell the truth. They told me that you were going to challenge me with questions like this. And so I'm telling you the truth.
Yeah. And the two things is, right, willing to testify and tell the truth. That's all. It doesn't matter if we win or lose. That's all that you have to do. That's your job, and these guys did a tremendous job. I don't want to give away all the secrets of the book because there's a lot of things that do happen at the trial, especially with Vincent Palermo. But Anthony Rotundo testified 7 times for us too. He's basically a scholar. As I said, he went to college. He was really, really good. Scarabino testified for us. Very, very good. Like, these guys were good. And one of the things that I can say is I can't think of a witness offhand, not just from the DeCavalcantes, the Columbos, the Bananos that I've had, where these guys have gotten into trouble again. And I think that says a lot, where they've made the most of their second chance, which is really impressive.
It is. I mean, the recidivism rate is unbelievably high amongst criminals, not just mafia members, but criminals in general. And that's extremely unusual.
And Anthony used to always say to me, I want to be a success story for you, Seamus. And I used to always say, not for me, for you. Be a success story for yourself. And it's like, when he went into the program, this is a guy that never worked a day in his life. He was always scheming and scamming. And when he went into the program, he worked. He was a salesman. I used to tell him all the time, you can sell steam shit to a blind man. I was like, just use your skills. You have the gift of the gab, right? So that's what he did, so just make the most of your second chance.
I was like, and I want you folks to read the book. There's so much more detail. This is one of the most detail-oriented books I ever read. And thank you for sending me a copy of the book, Seamus. I appreciate that. The final results of the DeCavalcante family, I found 71 convicted defendants.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. That you guys solved 11 murders. And just in this group went through 7 different trials.
Right. And that doesn't even include all the trials that we prepped for, because these witnesses, they were so good. They weren't just used for this case, but they were used for cases in the Eastern District, in New Jersey, where they were prepped. But because they were so good on the stand, defendants pled guilty. So it really was just a tremendous case. I think it ended up being close to 6 years, from 99 up until like 2004. Not only this, but then I had to testify against the unions that we talked about, where we put Local 394 into a trusteeship. It was like just a tremendous case. And again, what I always say too is it's not just me. It was the team that we had, the mentors that I had, the partners that I had. C10 was an amazing squad. And as I said, just at the same time, the Banano side is dismantling that family, which is just tremendous stuff.
So after this case, you were offered a promotion. How'd that go?
So again, I think I had 6 years on the job. And they come to me and they say, we want you to go down and run the Colombo squad. And I'm like, flattered, honored, way too young, right? And it's always those things, right? The people that put their hands up, you run from. The people that keep their hands down, that's the person you want. Or this is what I was told. And I was like, I'm not putting my hand up. At that point in time, the squad was called C38. They had 8 supervisors in 8 years.
Jeez.
And I'm going from a squad where everything was all love, everyone got along together, to like a redheaded stepchild. And I'm like, I don't want to go there. And then I was voluntold. And I was like, I go down there and I was like, okay, couple of ground rules though. I was like, this squad needs stability. Second of all, I'm not a yes guy. I was like, I'm going to push back. As I said, I only have 6 years. I have a lot more to learn, first of all, but I'm not going to just take orders. So be careful what you want, right? So I went down there, and that was in December of 2004. And I was there from December 2004 up until June of 2013. The Bureau puts in a policy that you can only be a supervisor for 7 years, which a lot of people don't agree with, myself included. So I acted for 18 months. First of all, the difference in pay is not a lot. I didn't want to start that 7-year clock. So I acted for a year and a half. It turns out that was the longest acting stretch at that time, and you didn't get a penny for it. After that 18-month time period, they then, because of me, they then implemented that you would get paid for acting. Thank you, Seamus. Pat on the back. I get jacked. So that happened. And then I became the official supervisor in June of 2006, I believe. But we had our first case. So my first takedown it's a crazy story, right before my brother's wedding, which is in September of 2007, where we have a proactive witness. And I had to change my mindset. When I went down there, I was like, okay, to hit the Colombos, I'm going to come at them in 2 ways. Their violent faction and their money faction. And the Colombos were big into construction. Second of all, the juries, because of all these shows that we had, NCIS and everything, we're not going to just take a witness's word now. They thought everything should be solved in 60 minutes or 42 minutes with the commercials. Yep. And the FBI with drones and everything, and with the DNA and everything like that. So I had to change the mindset. I was like, I need proactive witnesses. So during that time period, that 7.5-year time period, this squad, amazing young agents, just like I had on C10, we made over 1,800 recordings in 7.5 years. These guys worked around the clock. Phenomenal people. There was an agent, Vincent D'Agostino, tremendous young agent. I got him young. He came in and he took down this first case where he helped basically turn over recordings rather quickly. Instead of going to our Elsher unit to have them do it, we created our own Elsher unit on our squad. Unbelievable. But the first takedown is in September 2007, where we had these kids, you can't even make this stuff up, these kids decide to rob a Colombo social club.
Oh my gosh.
And our witness just happened to be there, who was a pretty decent sized guy, and he had a recording device. They come in and they rob the club and they let a round go through the ceiling. Can't make this up. The next day, these boneheads, they butt dial one of the guys in the club because they knew them. And they're talking live saying, oh yeah, I put that fat on like the floor, blah, blah, blah. So the Colombo guys call them and tell them, come down to the club. And these stupid kids come down to the club. Oh. Our witness with a recording device is in the club, not knowing this is going to happen. They were going to kill these kids. They had guns in their mouth, everything, going to kill them. Our witness steps in and he had an asp and he tuned them up pretty good, but he saved their life. He saved their life because they were going to get killed. They were going to kill them. He intervened and stopped it. So because of all this, we have to take the case down, right? You can't have violence, blah, blah, blah. That's the way the district looked at it. So It happens right before my brother's wedding. My brother got married, I think it's September 7, 2007. We're taking down the case that Saturday. So I'm giving the best man speech that Friday night, go through the wedding, and then I got to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I go to bed at 4 o'clock. 6 o'clock, we hit the houses. I don't go to that. I get there at like 6:30 because I'm the supervisor now. And we have that arrest. That's like the first major arrest we have, right? And we take down a Colombo captain that we didn't know about. This guy, Mike Uvino, opens the door for us. That guy made like 300 recordings. So that was great. Then the next arrest is in June of 2008, I believe, where we had a significant arrest. We take the acting boss down, a couple of captains, and again, we have all these cooperators out there. We take that down, and we're just building momentum on. So we go from a squad that no one wants to be on, where people are knocking at my door to come to our squad. We use all that, and we get to January 2011, where we have the largest FBI Mafia arrest ever, where we arrest 127 people nationwide and internationally. And our squad alone is responsible for 60 arrests, 5 search warrants. The arrest is so big that we take up Fort Hamilton in Brooklyn, where we house everyone there. So you can imagine if you were arresting 127 people, you have over 1,000 law enforcement people involved. It was amazing. My phone almost died like 3 or 4 times that day. I was constantly charging it because I'm the head guy. Everyone's calling me. And they would ask me, can we take this, Seamus? Can we take this book? And I was always a believer, take whatever you want because you can always give it back. And when you give it back, then you can have a conversation with them and try to get them to cooperate. And it always used to work. And I remember it was such a big deal in the papers. And we got so much great press that they wanted me to get back to the press conference and speak to the attorney general and have a photo op and everything. And we had a Colombo captain in the back of a car. And I had to go back there with the agent and solidify him cooperating because he was on the fence. So instead of going to the photo op, I'm like, screw that. We got to get this guy in the door. So we were able to get him to cooperate. And then after that, the Bureau decides, okay, we're going to reduce the resources because the director at the time wasn't a fan of organized crime. So we reduced the resources. And because of my knowledge with the Bonanno family, they give me the Bonanno family. So now C10 gets merged into C38. So now I got the Bonannos, the DeCavalcantes, and the Colombos.
Unbelievable.
That's January 2011. And then the next big thing I have, my last official act as a supervisor is in June of 2013. And that's when we related to Goodfellas. So Jimmy Burke is the guy portrayed in Goodfellas. We solve a 1969 murder of a guy named Paul Katz. And what happens is Jimmy Burke killed him in 1969 with Vincent Asaro and basically buried him in his own basement. Jimmy Burke gets arrested for the Boston Point shaving scandal and goes to jail in the 80s. He gets paranoid that the cops that he had on the payroll back in the 60s and 70s are going to talk. So he wants to move the body, even though he's in jail. So he enlists Vincent Asaro's son and a guy named Gaspar Valente, who became a cooperating witness for us. And they moved the body. Gaspar Valente is the only guy who's part of the Lufthansa heist who they didn't kill.
Wow.
The only reason they didn't kill him was because he was cousins with Vincent Asaro, who's a made guy with the Bonanno family. So Vincent didn't kill him. They took all the money from him, but they didn't kill him. So he was the only guy living that was part of the Lufthansa heist, and he cooperates. So his 2 jewels when he comes in and proffers is A, this 1969 murder, and B, the Lufthansa heist. So in June 2013, we go to Jimmy Burke's basement and dig it up, even though they had moved the body in the 80s. But they're perps. They're not professionals, right?
Right.
So we go and we dig up the basement. And this is a crazy story. So we go and our evidence response team is with us and they knock out the water main pipe. Lady upstairs is pregnant. So I'm responsible. I'm the guy on the scene. So I got to go get her water to make sure that she's comfortable.
Right.
I call the DEP, the Department of Environmental Protection. I get the number 2 guy who actually was a Cardinal Spellman graduate.
That's good.
Same high school I went to. Get him to come down. And during that time period, I got to go to the bathroom. So we go up to Liberty Avenue. There's train tracks above. And who do I look? I go look across the street and I see Vincent Asaro. Vincent Asaro is probably close to 80 now, like 75, close to 80. And he's still in good shape. And I look across and I see him. I'm like, he's in front of a Banana Body Shop. And I got a couple of guys with me. And I'm like, that's Vinny. And I'm like, we have to say something. And they think I'm crazy to begin with. So I'm like, we're saying something. And they go, no, we can't. I was like, we're saying something. So we go to the bathroom because we knocked out the water main pipe. We cross over the street. And then I go see Vinny. We have some small talk. I know he had some health issues. And I said, we're just working down the block here. Now, what we had done that day was we kept the witness out, which is a dangerous thing to do. We kept him out and had him with Vinny when we started to dig, which is dangerous, right? Because Vinny doesn't know who the witness is, and the witness is recording him, and him knowing that we're there digging up a body that he helped put there.
Right.
So we're getting great evidence on tape. So I just said to him, I'm playing with him. I'm like, oh, we're just down the block working. And he knows what the hell we're doing. Right. And then at the end of the conversation, I just tap him on the shoulder and I said, I'll see you soon. And that was in June. So we actually do recover pieces of a body that we tied to DNA to the murder victim's son. And we confirm it's his father. And then in January 2014, I knock on the door because I'm part of the arrest team. I was like, I have to be part of the arrest team. Knock on the door and I said, I told you I'd see you soon. And he thought it was the funniest thing. So we went back to 26 Federal Plaza. He's like, that mother effer over there. But at least he had a sense of humor, even though he was a pretty ruthless guy. And that's how it was my last official act as a supervisor for the Colombo Squad.
And I just got to throw out these stats because they're unbelievable. As your results as a group supervisor within the FBI working these investigations, convicted over 200 defendants, solved 20 murders, and you guys ended up in at least 9 trials. Maybe you probably prepped for more, but 9 successful trials, right?
Yeah. And again, not just me, the team that I had, they did a tremendous job. These guys worked around the clock. Just so proud of them. They just really worked so hard, and they're just a great team. And it's like, I've been really blessed throughout my whole entire career, from the day that I went down to training and getting to C10 and then to supervise these guys and just to build a team there. They just did a tremendous amount of work, and I was just so proud of them. And it's funny, when I was approached to write this book, to be honest, I thought that the first book would be a couple of chapters. And then when the publisher saw my story, they're like, no, this is 2 books. So whenever I retire again, I'll get to the Colombo section.
Well, at least you got, you're planning for the future there. But, I mean, overall, you're looking at, in your 21-year career with the Bureau, you participated not in the disruption, but the dismantlement of 3 mafia families. And there's only 6, ladies and gentlemen. The DeCavalcantes were the 6th. So you participated in the dismantlement of 3. So that's the DeCavalcantes, the Bonanos, and the Colombos. You convicted 10 mafia bosses. You recovered 5 bodies. And this one is the icing on the cake for me. You solved the murder of a New York City police officer.
Yeah, that was like Ralph Doles. He was killed back in 1997. It's a very unfortunate murder. It's the one that really hits home the most, in the sense is the lady, he just married the wrong person. Lady that he married was formerly married to a Colombo made member. Because of who she was married to previously, they wanted to kill him, and they actually did kill him. Several people have pled guilty to that murder. The person who ordered the murder got away with it, which still stings because, like I said, this is an innocent person that got killed for no reason. But yeah, it was good to solve that murder. And the family they're such a great family. It's just really, really sad. But that was back in 1997. And as you said before, just tremendously blessed. Like some people can say one family, some people can say two, but I don't think anyone out there can actually say three.
It's monumental. I mean, I was shocked. But
again, not just me. It's definitely the teammates that I had, the partners, the mentors, the supervisors that I had. I really just was a sponge and was very fortunate to be blessed to get all the education that I got from the people that were there before me and the foundations that were built before me. And then, what happened after all that, as I said, the Bureau had a policy where you can only be a supervisor for 7 years. I was fortunate enough to be there for 8.5 years because I acted for 1.5 years. And after that, I was like, all right, what am I going to do next? Right. So I was like, okay, a lot of people after that were in my shoes didn't go back to investigative work. And I was like, I want to prove to myself that I could go back and do cases again. So I decided to go up to a violent crime squad in White Plains. They were having a serious problem up there with really sad, like young gangs that were just killing each other, like these young kids, like 21 to 25. So I went up there and I got to work with a task force officer, Eddie Murphy, and a great agent, Kevin O'Donnell, another Irish guy.
There you go.
And
2 Irish guys.
Yep. Yeah, true. That's true. And we actually used RICO, which hadn't been used before against like local gangs. And we were having a very hard time getting people to cooperate. And we used RICO, and I got a bunch of kids to actually flip. And it was really good because in that moment, it was a satisfying thing in the sense of getting young kids to turn their life around. You know what I mean? So we went from having there was no one that cooperated there to having a bunch of kids flip and actually get a second chance at life, especially at that young age. So I did that for a couple of years, and then I was getting close to retirement. I'm like, okay, if I stay here, I might end up working as a security guard in McDonald's or something. So I was like, I got to go back to my roots, which is white collar. So that's what I did. I went to a white collar squad. I worked fraud for about 2 years or so. I had some successful cases there, put some guys away for like 10 years. And then I'm getting close to retirement. So I retired in April of 2019. When I retired, I went to work for a bank where I was head of security for a bank, doing fraud, doing corporate security there, which was great. Was when you do fraud, I was actually saving the bank money because security is expensive. But I was able to offset that by saving the bank probably close to $10 million a year. Did that for a couple of years. And then right now I'm working for a financial institution, which is an international firm. So it's more of a international role. And that's what I've been doing for the last 2.5 years now.
Unbelievable. I went on LinkedIn. So folks, if you can go see the list I'm getting ready to mention, you list a long list of awards that you received throughout your career for the accomplishments that you and your team were able to bring to adjudication. One was the FBI Medal of Excellence. I've got to imagine that's one of the top ones.
Yeah, that, and I think when I got invited to meet the president back in 2013, that was really big for me. The only thing that I didn't like about that is I really wanted to take a representative from the Colombo side and a representative from the Banano side as well, but they wouldn't let me. So, and actually, if you have a minute, there's a funny story related to that. Absolutely. In a sense, when we went there, I'm in a room with people that are way smarter than me, people from NASA that had developed vaccines and everything. And we're going to meet President Obama. So he's running late. And his assistant was a little uptight, I would say. And she has these rules, right? So her rules is, okay, you're not allowed to touch him. You're not allowed to give him a gift. And you're not allowed to take a selfie, right? So those are her rules. So he's running late. So I decided to go up to her, being a bit of a jokester that I am. And I go up to her and I said, hey, I just want to let you know, when he comes in, I'm going to put my arm around him. I'm going to take a picture and I'm going to give him this. She looked at me like I had three heads. And I just turned around and I said to her, I said, it's a much better story if I get thrown out of here. And then she finally realized that I was joking around. But I'm like, lady, like, lighten up a little bit. You know what I mean? But that was probably the biggest thing for me, is being invited to the White House. Because some people can say that you could run into the president by chance, that you could see him, or you can, but to be invited is some, is just a nice treat. I would say.
That was a big deal. And I'm thinking you're talking to this, I don't know, chief of staff or whatever she was, but you're thinking, I just took out 3 mafia families. You think I'm worried about what you're going to do? Not that we'd be smart asses, but we might be.
Yes.
Let me ask you this. If you had it all to do over again, what would you change, if anything?
I wouldn't change a thing.
Really?
Tell you the truth. No, I would not change a thing. I think I've been extremely blessed. I'm a firm believer that things happen in life for a reason, and it is what it is, so I've been very blessed with the career that I've had. As I said, when I got out of school, I had no clue what I had wanted to do. And I think the chips just fell where they were. And I've been just very lucky.
Did you ever get married in your career?
Yes, I did. I didn't get married till very late in life. I was having a lot of fun. So I didn't get married till I was like 43. There was long-term relationships that I had, but I didn't find the right person until the end. And I have a great wife, and she's been extremely supportive too. That's,
I refer to our families as our unsung heroes, because they put up with all our crap.
Yep.
Love it. So we're coming up to the end here, and this has been just I love this interview. People love hearing about organized crime. I love the way that in your book, you really take the time to go through and define things, and you explain things so that you just got to understand the commitment it takes to deal with some of these former criminals, especially that were involved in organized crime, because these are stone cold murderers. They have no conscience. When you talk about the beast, he they hit his limit when they wanted to kill children. I'm surprised by that.
Yep.
They just don't have a conscience.
And when you sit down with these guys, it's like, it was really odd for me, especially being at such a young age, that they're talking about crimes like it's nothing. Like, just pass me the sandwich, and just talking about murders and this, that, and the other thing. And like, it's just nothing. It's just very bizarre to me.
That's their world.
Yep.
It's hard for most people to contemplate that, but especially if you're just a good person, you'd hate to believe that there's that kind of evil in the world, but the sadness is there truly is. It's everywhere.
That's true.
So one last question for you, brother. Do you have any words of wisdom or advice that you would like to offer to anyone that might be considering a career in law enforcement or going into the military or high risk occupation? Because you've done some monumental things in your career.
Well, I think in life, people are going to tell you no a lot, and don't let that stop you. It's like, you can do whatever you want in life. Just be persistent about it. If there's law enforcement, or if you want to go into private sector, whatever you want, just follow your dreams. And that's the most important thing, right? Sometimes I think law enforcement people get their thought processes, the letters, right? Either it be DEA or FBI. There's a lot more behind that, right? And as I said, even when we started the training course that I had, where we started with 50 people and ended with 37, that first week, a couple of people, that's what they were thoughting about, just the FBI. It's like, until they showed you some of the videos that you're going to see where people get shot and killed and their heads shot off. It's like, it becomes real quick. There's a threat element to it. So make sure you know what you're going to get yourself into. And I do feel sorry for the people now, in the sense is, I think the public really has to get back to respecting law enforcement, because I think that's out the window right now. And I really do have immense respect for law enforcement right now because of what they have to go through. It's like, it's just not right. You see people yelling at law enforcement and cursing and spitting at them. It's like, have some respect. These people they're just doing a job. It's like, can you imagine if we went to other people's jobs and did the same thing to them? It's just not right. So I got great respect for law enforcement, and you can do whatever you want. Just have to put your mind to it.
Absolutely. And one thing that I took out of the book, and you've mentioned several times between yesterday and today, is respect other people. Mm-hmm. Regardless, as much as you hate to, or you might not want to, when you're dealing with these stone cold criminals, you've got to develop a modicum of trust and respect for each other to get them to cooperate and do the right thing.
Yeah. And it's like, do not judge people, because you don't know how they were raised or what issues they have or what type of challenges that they have. It's like, just do your job, and it's like, that's the thing. You're supposed to just do your job. So, and they'll be judged. One day they're going to be judged, and it's not up for you to judge them. And it's like, trust me, I've heard some horrible things. And that's the thing, is you want to make sure, especially when you deal with a witness, right? They're going to tell you some bad stuff and some stuff that is going to turn you off. Like for me, when I would hear home invasions, it's a horrible crime. It's a horrible crime, right? Where someone comes into your house and they take over your house and they tie you up and they steal your stuff. That's a horrible thing. But you can't judge people, because especially a witness, when someone decides to cooperate, it's up for you to get them to your side. It's up for you to make things work out then, right? And they're looking for you not to judge them. So it's just so important for that. It's like, don't judge people. It's like, because you don't know how they were raised and you don't know what issues they're trying to deal with. So,
yeah. One last thing I want to point out for the book, and I'll be honest with you, the surprise for me, I don't want to give this away, but what happened to one witness in the end of the book was surprising. And yeah, I'm baiting the listeners out there to go read the book, but that is just life. That's the way things happen. But you talk about, I think this was probably during the Colombo phase, where you got all these mafia bosses sitting there. Here comes an Irish cop in, is able to pronounce their names correctly, is spitting off all the details about them, and they're like, oh shit. I love it.
Yep. It's like when I had to testify against the unions, Local 394, we had to go to Jersey, and it was open to the public. So, of course, what they're going to do is they got all the members to come, and you had some big guys there, and they're trying to scare me. And I would just like Schifoletti, I would spell that name, and I spell this name and that name. And it's like, you're not going to scare me, please. I've been through a lot, so I'm not going to scare.
There you go. I love it, man. Ladies and gentlemen, you've gotten the opportunity to listen to a true American hero and patriot right here in the last 2 days, just like on so many other guests that we bring on here. I've mentioned the book to you several times. You'll see it on the screen now. It's called Flipping Capo, How the FBI Dismantled the Real Sopranos. I found it on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. There's a website called flippingcapo.com. Go on there and see Seamus and see the lady that helped write the book. I found Seamus on Facebook and on LinkedIn, both at Seamus McElearney. And the last name is McElearney. He actually sent me a phonetic pronunciation of the word so I could say it correctly. Murphy's just so much easier to say. Right? Seamus, it has been a true honor to have you on here, sir. Thank you. I didn't listen to your interview on Jerry Williams' show. She's fantastic. Really looking forward to meeting her in person here in the next couple of weeks. But,
awesome.
And I don't want to listen to other people's shows because I want it to be genuine and authentic here when I speak to our esteemed guests that we have on here. But I think I speak for everybody in law enforcement and most everybody in the United States when we say thank you for your service to your country, the phenomenal things you did, the risks that you took, the sacrifices that you and your family both had to make. It's been an honor to have you on the show, sir.
It's been great to be here, Steve. I wish you nothing but the best of luck.
Thanks, brother. Look at there. FBI and DEA getting along. We can do it. We can do it, guys. And when I say guys, I'm talking to the ladies also. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming and joining me again this week on Game of Crimes with Murph in the Morning. I truly appreciate you giving me your time. If you're listening to this and you'd like to see the guest and see this old, fat, white, bald-headed guy that's called Murph, go over to YouTube, type in Game of Crimes Podcast in the search bar, hit the subscribe button, please. Listen to some of the episodes there, hit the like button. And if you got comments, send me your comments. Believe it or not, I do read them. And those of you that send in the stupid, ugly comments, I still read yours too. I'm just not going to respond to you. But truly, thank you very much. I say this every week. I don't know why you continue to come back. We're in our 5th year of the show here, but actually we do know why you come back. Because you enjoy playing the biggest, the baddest, the most dangerous game of all, and that's our game of crimes. God bless. See you folks next week.